Hey everyone, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in to Relevant Jukebox, and today we're going to talk about the newest album from Tame Impala, The Slow Rush. So this is the highly anticipated new album from the Australian psych rock band fronted by singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and producer Kevin Parker, and he's back after a 5-year gap following up Currents, which was actually a pretty huge record for the band overall, making a transition into a more synth-pop direction, and that record was actually really well received by fans and critics alike. Even though I've always kind of preferred Lonerism and Inner Speaker, I do think that Kevin Parker deserves all of the recognition that he gets from behind the boards as an engineer and producer, as I think his influence in the music scene is kind of underappreciated. I feel like I can always tell when I'm listening to a record that he produces. They're always so vivid, loud, and colorful sounding, and everything is so well balanced and placed in the mix. And he has a pretty good ear for writing melodies with introspective lyrics that seem to resonate with a lot of people. So I'm always curious to see what he's going to do with his Tame Impala project, and I was actually highly anticipating this record after hearing some of the singles that dropped because they're actually pretty great. The Slow Rush does kind of feel like this proper successor to Currents, as they do share a lot of artistic qualities with improvements, in my opinion though. For one, this record is chock full of synthesizers once again, but they do feel and sound a little different on here. Everything on Currents felt very shiny and metallic, with more like high frequency and colder type sounds. But on the Slow Rush, everything has more of like a subdued and very warm feeling, almost like you're drinking a mulled cider on the beach or something. And also, like on Currents, a lot of the rock elements that made the foundation points of Tame Impala's music are becoming a lot less distinguishable, and he's drawing a lot of influence in the dance music scene in the worlds of like disco and funk on here. And the results are these like psychedelic pop, dance rock odysseys. Overall, there's also a lot more of a focus on the percussion elements, and Kevin Parker has this reputation in the studio to be somewhat of a perfectionist, doing multiple takes to get the perfect sound and tone that he wants, and it certainly seems to have paid off on this album here, especially in the drums, because they sound absolutely fantastic. Like all of those really pummeling bass drum kicks that come through in some of those psychedelic passages on the track Posthumous Forgiveness, or even those stuttering drum patterns on the track Tomorrow's Dust, but honestly on like every song on here. And Kevin's songwriting approach overall in this record does kind of make these tracks feel like they're longer than they actually are at times, which sometimes is a good thing, other times not so much. Like the way that this record kicks off with the track One More Year. The manipulated vocals that come in the beginning are really great as they melt around the mix and kind of melt into the groove. And as an introduction, I think this track does a good job at placing you into the vibe of the record, but overall, I think this track meanders kind of way too long, and there isn't really a satisfying payoff towards the end of it. It kind of fades out and then segues directly into the next track, Instant Destiny. It has a really catchy chorus on it, but it does kind of feel almost like a chorus that would conclude the record somehow. But overall, I did really enjoy that track. Borderline is just a very okay, kind of by the numbers Tame Impala track for me, but the other 3 singles that dropped promoting this album, Posthumous Forgiveness, Lost in Yesterday, and It Might Just Be Time, I think were the best tracks on this album, kind of represent like peak Tame Impala, honestly. With the exception of a couple deep cuts though. Breathe Deeper kicks off with this groove and these piano flourishes that sound like they're coming out of some late 90s R&B track or something that like Mariah Carey would hop on. Really sticky hook again on this track with a great groove, which I do enjoy, but if I'm being honest, after repeat listens on this track, the groove just kind of drags itself out to the point of not becoming interesting anymore. Is It True is another cut on here that has a little bit more of a disco type flavor to it. I really dig the super fat bass line on this one, and again, a really catchy melody on it that carries it out. Now, those are some kind of like the bigger standouts I thought on this record, but a lot of it does kind of feel like Tame Impala phoning it in a little bit. And some of his like songwriting ideas seem to be repeated on this album too, like how the tracks Posthumous Forgiveness and Breathe Deeper both have these like seemingly ending points to the track. There's like a 1.5 minute outro part that kind of like carries the track out, that changes it up a bit, but they don't really feel too necessary or really add much to what was preceding it. And the track Glimmer that's kind of just tacked on to the end of this record adds absolutely nothing to it, in my opinion. It's just like a 2-minute like indulgent jam. And finally, the closing track, One More Hour, certainly feels like it. This one was pretty tedious to sit through for me, and maybe I'm in the minority here, but I'm not really a big fan of Kevin Parker's voice, especially on a lot of these slower type balladry cuts. Sounds super whiny, but overall, I actually did think this was a pretty good record. A lot of the lyrical content deals with love and relationships, bettering oneself, and also questioning oneself and your motives and development as things happen to you in life, sort of like a slow rush. And this record sounds immaculate in my opinion, and it's kind of worth celebrating that alone. I do get the appeal to Tame Impala, but I kind of wish at this point that Kevin Parker would experiment a lot more and challenge his fan base a little bit, because you know, if you're a huge Tame Impala fan, you've been into their music, I'm pretty sure you're gonna dig this record. But if you're not too huge into Tame Impala, I'm not really sure that what occurs on this record here is gonna be drawing you in, because it kind of feels like it's been designed to be consumed by a fan base that's like super pumped to see him at Coachella. I can't really deny there are some discography standouts on this album, but I still think Lonerism is their best. And with that being said, I'm feeling a 7 over here on the Slow Rush. Now, if you're interested in picking this up on a vinyl copy, there were a few limited presses that have gone up for sale and already sold out. Tame Impala's website had this cool red and gold, blue and gold, color and color double LP that's gone. HMV Records also had an exclusive to 1000 through their website on red and blue. The pressing that seems to be still available up for sale is the green double LP, so I'm gonna leave links down below if you guys want to scoop that. And if you listen to the Slow Rush, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you for watching. If you want more content from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Peace.